Welcome back, everybody. We're going through the games here on Cape Rugby TV. Jerome, just before the break, we took a look there at the match between UWC and Brackenfell. Villages and UCT has been one of the talking points, I think, for a lot of teams. Villages has been getting stronger in the last 2 years. They've had a change there. Morgan, you know Villages intimately. UCT also now back from the Varsity Cup. Similar scenario to what we were talking about earlier on with SK Warmers and Helderberg, and maybe a picture as well from what we were potentially going to see from UWC Brackenfell. But both teams now stabilizing, both teams getting stronger, and we're seeing them finding their groove. Villages, UCT, what would you have expected here, Morgs, before we look at the first half?
Yeah, you know, again, it's difficult. I feel like it's a mixed bag with the varsities. You never know what you're going to get, who they're going to pick, and so forth. So with UCT, it's a mixed bag. But I think Villages have shown that they've found a way of, you know, under their head coach, Andy Coetzee, and what they're building at Villages. I think they've become a very stable outfit in Super League A.
Yeah.
And so I think at home, Villages at home, you've got to back them, you know. As close as it was, I think it's probably the result is almost what I would have predicted, almost very similar.
Jerome, before we talk about the results that we're sort of referring to here, same question for you is, what are you, at this stage of the game, we're just more than a third into the league now. What are you expecting, without looking at this game now, what are you expecting the stages of progress to be almost for Villages and UCT?
Yeah, look, I think for Villages, they've obviously had so far a good season, and then UCT winning the Varsity Cup. So I think that motivate Villages on itself to say, like, look, let's test ourselves against the Varsity Cup champs. It's a big thing for Varsity to win the Varsity Cup.
Do you think this is like a derby match?
It is definitely in the south. It is definitely a derby match.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of these guys went together, school together, they went to university together, so they know each other quite well.
Yeah, well, let's take a look and see. This is, of course, Villages and UCT first half. All right, there we go. Final result then, Villages UCT, while Morgan Newman and Jerome Parvater here are busy manufacturing where the players are going to be playing during the rest of the year. This is very much what I hear coaches doing, is you guys talk about where players are going to play. Is this what you guys do off time, off season?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm
do other
a bit
coaches
more
do the same
focused,
thing?
but Jerome obviously needs to know what's going on a lot more than me about who's where and
I'm going to
everything.
leave you guys at that. Jerome, Villages leading here. Of course, home ground advantage. It makes sense. 12-8, very much on what you were saying just now.
Yeah, it's a close game, but yeah, I mean the students obviously did well there. The one thing about them, they don't shy away from contact. They in your face. But it's just a little bit like the older guys, just keep on grinding, yeah. So, but it's a good result at halftime.
Yeah, Morgs, your input on that?
Yeah, 100%. I think Jerome hits the nail on the head there. You know, the two sides, the one, it's almost like two UCT sides. The one is just a bit more mature than the other. And I suppose in the end, that's kind of how things pan out.
All right, well, let's see if it pans out for Villages or for UCT. As we said, the halftime score there, 12-8 in favor of Villages. Let's take a look. Right, folks, when we went into the halftime, it was 12-8 lead for Villages, just a 4-point margin. Final result then, Villages winning by just 1 point, 26 points to 25. Similar to the other games, guys, it's almost a halftime echo into the second half. Morgs?
Yeah, it's a grind. It looks like it was a massive grind for both sides. But I think big result. I think UCT will kick themselves. I think there were patches there where they could certainly have open the game up a bit more against the Villages side that like their structure. And UCT, we know, have that UCT flair from the Southern Suburb schools.
Yeah.
But in the end, I suppose, full value, Villages, and this is a big one. I think for where the final log standing will end up, this is a big result for them.
So, Jerome, this is kind of like a derby score.
Yeah, it is. I just think like Villages fall a little bit into the trap of UCT. They also try to show off some plays, try to play the ball too much where they could have tightened it up. So keep the students in play if you also try to play their type of game. But yeah, it's a good win for them, for Villages.
All right, folks, let me give you some of the other results that came in over the weekend. Of course, in Super League C, Peniel Villages drawing with Violets, and Langa drawing with Atlantis. We don't see this too often. Strand United with a 1-point loss to Young Peoples. It was Busy Bees who went down to Caledonian Roses. And then All Saints with a 4-point margin win over Delft, while Scottsdene scored an 18-12 win over Eerste Rivier. Young Ideas went down to Manenberg Rangers. Elsies Rivier went down to Blue Jets. Morningstar 29-9 over Police or Blackheath. And then Silver Leaf and Silver Tree, that derby panned out in favor of Silver Leaf, while Maisi Pumulele scored a 38-17 win over Blakes. Titans went down to Rocklands. It was a win for Northerns over Peninsula. And then Watsonia, 49-25 over Visanta Kraal. While in the Northern League, it was Stelco going down to Solorians, a win for Whistling Wheels, a win for Wraithby, and a big win for Windmill United over Gordonsburg. We'll be taking a look at some of the other, or at least we'll be taking a look at the fixtures after the break. Don't go away. Back in a sec.